I'm Jennifer Cobian. I'm the Grants Director at the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury. I want to welcome you all to the meeting tonight. I really appreciate you all taking the time to come out here and learn about these upcoming disaster recovery programs, and as well as providing feedback. The disaster recovery programs are an opportunity for our community to implement long-term disaster recovery projects that will have a significant lasting impact to our community. And not just an opportunity to get back to where we were before the storms, but a chance to enhance our community and enhance resiliency in Calcasieu Parish. So we're really thrilled to be at this point. As many of you know, the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury took a really proactive approach after the 2020 hurricanes and implemented a long-term recovery plan. And this plan included a significant community engagement effort, which resulted in a recovery needs assessment. And it outlined issues, impacts, challenges, and opportunities for the parish. And so many of the opportunities listed in the assessment were really great project ideas. We just didn't have the funding at that time to be able to implement some of those opportunities identified. We were hopeful that we'd be able to get that federal disaster aid and be able to get some of those projects done. But once the police jury adopted the long-term recovery plan, it was submitted to various federal and state agencies to advocate for funding for Southwest Louisiana disaster recovery aid. And so this really is a full circle moment to be able to come up here and have some of those programs finally be allocated down to Southwest Louisiana, and we're able to finally start kicking off and get some projects on the books. So in just a minute, we're going to have a couple of our representatives from our program management team to give a presentation about the two disaster recovery programs. But before we jump in, I want to give one of our police jurors, Mike Smith, an opportunity to come up here and say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome y'all to the Allen August Center. And this is a great day for us because actually the grant funding money is in here. And I kind of hope we would have had more people that show up because, you know, the actual money is definitely made to be used in the low to moderate income areas. And that's something that we want to make sure that it's done. So I know people can come in and make public comments. I guess we'll be here till about 7:30. But I know we're going to make sure that the word gets out and the application process for people to come in and give their opinions because, you know, we want the public opinion. We want everybody to be involved in this decision and to make sure that we can build back better. Especially District 2, which is right here in this area. That's one of the hardest hits of the actual parish itself. So we want to make sure that the money is appropriated for different programs that can benefit the whole community, the whole parish. Thank you and have a nice night.
Thank you, Mike. And I also want to recognize Tony Guillory, one of our police jurors, is here tonight. So thank you, Tony, for coming out. All right, so with that, we'll kick it off with our consultants, Ms. Claudia.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Claudia Henry and I'm on the parish team helping with these two new recovery programs. And of course, it's not working. Well, just while we get that fixed, we can kind of give, I know when you walked in, you were probably handed an agenda, so we'll just kind of go over the agenda for today. So we're just going to kind of start off giving some information on why we're having this meeting, why the parish is facilitating this meeting. And then we're going to kind of walk through the different planning and initiatives that are already underway in the realm of disaster recovery within Calcasieu Parish and how that kind of fits into these new programs that are going to be implemented and these new projects. And then, well, Miss Kathy here will give us an overview of the two programs, just kind of more information on what their goals are and what some eligible activities are for those programs. And then that's when we'll transition into a public comment period and answer any questions and have a discussion around potential projects. So kind of why we're here today, the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury was allocated $26.7 million in funding for eligible projects in Calcasieu Parish through the state of Louisiana's Hometown Revitalization Program and Resilient Communities Infrastructure Program. And in order to receive that funding and implement these programs and projects, the parish must submit a recovery proposal for each of those programs and how, kind of outlining how the parish will utilize the funds for those two programs. And the purpose of this meeting is to kind of provide more information to the community on what those programs are and what the eligible activities for those programs are, and the input collected at this meeting, as well as all the information that we've received from previous planning disaster recovery efforts will be used to develop those recovery proposals. And I do want to make a note that these two programs, the funds for these two programs cannot be used for rental recovery housing needs. There are other programs for these needs. The Restore Louisiana program and the Louisiana Housing Corporation also has rental recovery programs. If anyone happens to be here and is looking for assistance with Restore Louisiana or Restore Louisiana application, we do have a Restore Louisiana case manager in the back who can answer any questions related to Restore, so feel free to see her if you are here for Restore Louisiana. And kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, we will be having an official public comment session at the end of this meeting. So as you start thinking of comments or questions, feel free to write those on that comment card that you received when you walked in. And for our Zoom attendees, there will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, so you can submit comments through the question and answer function on Zoom, and we'll make sure to read those aloud and answer your questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so I know Jennifer kind of touched on a few of these items at the beginning, but the reason we're all here, we know that you have done a lot of planning and actively engaged in multiple disaster recovery initiatives over the past few years due to disasters that have impacted Calcasieu Parish over the past few years. And so we're just going to kind of run through, what has been done up until this point, and how do these two new programs fit into that work that's already been done. So as I know, I'm sure everyone in this room knows, Hurricanes Laura and Delta hit in October 2020, and immediately after those hit, the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury got to work thinking through, okay, how can we think through recovery, and developed the long-term community recovery plan. And this was informed by various community engagement efforts and task force that developed short, medium, and long-term recovery needs. And following that, the Department of Housing and Urban Development allocated funds for Hurricanes Laura and Delta, and that is how these two programs that we're mentioning today are funded, through that allocation from the federal government. And they also allocated additional funds for Hurricanes Laura and Delta in March 2022. And then in April 2022, the Calcasieu Parish also released their 2022 to 2024 strategic plan. And a priority of this plan was disaster recovery and meeting the needs of those that are still in recovery from the disasters. And then in November 2022, that's when OCD officially launched these two programs, again, that we're speaking on today, the Hometown Revitalization Program and the Resilient Communities Infrastructure Program. And on top of the efforts from the police jury and these two programs established by OCD, the Community Foundation of Southwest Louisiana also released a Just Imagine master plan, which kind of envisions what the region will look like over the next 30 to 50 years, thinking through resiliency and how can we really build a community that's more resilient from these disasters. And so I'm saying all of this just to say that we know that there's multiple different disaster recovery efforts going on, and that many in the community have been actively engaged in these, giving your thoughts, thinking through planning, and all of these items will be implemented into these two programs. And all these different planning initiatives have helped clarify projects that might be eligible for these two programs as we start to develop this recovery proposal. So I will kick it off to Kathy to give more information on the programs.
Thank you, Claudia. Good job. That's a lot of information, but it's important that you understand, how everything came about and where we are now. So the money finally got here that your parish has been looking for and trying to get. So it's finally here for your community. So one of the programs is the Hometown Revitalization. Oops. So Calcasieu Parish was awarded $13,352,225 for the Hometown Revitalization Program. So let me explain a little bit about what that does. It's actually designed to address the unmet needs for business growth and economic recovery in identified HUD and MID areas, which Lake Charles and the parish are, because you were impacted by the eligible 2020 and 2021 storms. The purpose of the program is to encourage new economic opportunities for Louisiana communities while supporting the crucial recovery of the state's commercial areas. And just so that you know, Lake Charles did also receive an allocation of funding. They will be preparing their proposal. So theirs will be separate from the parish. However, there may be some coordination because your parish and your city do work together for the betterment of your community. So some examples of eligible activities under the Hometown Revitalization Program are public facilities where you actually acquire and construct and rehab public facilities, commercial or industrial corridor revitalization, and just an example of that is where you would go in and revitalize vacant buildings, that kind of thing. You actually repair, do sidewalks, you do streetscape projects where you beautify that area so that shoppers feel comfortable shopping there. Lighting, that's another eligible project that you could do, to be able to bring businesses into these vacant abandoned buildings. So that's something that you want to think about when you're talking about projects that you might want to do in this community. Also, you want to be sure, like Mr. Smith mentioned, these funds are to redevelop a low to moderate income areas in your community. And only those areas and those beneficiaries are eligible for this funding. Recreational facilities, community centers, and parks are also eligible projects, and homeless shelters and food banks. So the second program that is coming down from the state, which comes down from the federal government, is the Resilient Communities Infrastructure Program. The parish also received $13,352,225 for that program. These projects will address the unmet needs in the areas of infrastructure in order to expand and improve for future planning, future storms. The goal of the program is to reduce overall risk to the population and structures from future hazard events, while also reducing reliance on federal funding in future disaster. So again, the City of Lake Charles also received this funding and allocation, and they will be doing a proposal for theirs as well. So some projects that would be eligible in this area would be, focusing on reducing runoff and improving water quality, including mitigation of future flood risk, drainage projects, that kind of thing, is what you're going to be looking at to do infrastructure redevelopment. Mitigation components have to be a part of the project scope. In other words, these projects need to be sure that you're protected from future storms and drainage. If you have to, for example, if you have to tear up a sidewalk to repair or improve drainage, you rebuild with permeable sidewalks to be mitigation. Do you know what I mean by that? Permeable, where it automatically drains. Examples of eligible activities for this funding: water and sewer projects, street and sidewalk improvements, drainage improvements to reduce flooding, replace, redesign, or relocate existing structures to mitigate against future disasters. Sometimes, you just have to get out of nature's way, right? So you want to think about that when you're talking about, how to rebuild better, make sure, that projects are located in higher elevation areas and that kind of thing. Or at least build your buildings where they are elevated, where they have the construction design that they will resist wind damage, that kind of thing. So both of these programs have a lot of eligibility measures that they have to meet. And one of those is tied to the storm. Now, what do I mean by tied to the storm? For the HRP program, which is the economic development part, these tied to the storm would be like improvement to damaged public facilities in commercial areas, including streetscapes, lighting, sidewalks, and other physical improvements. Economic development of the area through acquisition, demolition, site preparation, or rehab to commercial structures on private or public property. Facade improvements to commercial structures on private or public property for economic revitalization. For the infrastructure program, you're looking at was the building or the infrastructure, the drainage system, did it fail to function? When the storm happened, were your drainage systems, did they fail to function? Do they need to be improved so that they do function in the next storm? Another tied to the storm would be the activity is needed for the community's successful long-term recovery from the storm and for protection against future storms. So that's how you meet that criteria. Another selection process that you have to go through is benefit to low-income area population within a delineated service area. So what do I mean by that? It must benefit low to moderate income residents. It's good if it's in an area, or does it benefit low to moderate income people? And one of the examples that I like to use on that is if you have a Head Start program, all of the residents of that program are low to moderate income, right? No matter where the facility is located, that it benefits low to moderate income people. And so that's what we're looking for to be able to meet that criteria. Another is that you serve disadvantaged communities that were economically distressed prior to the storm events. And there's a lot of area here in the parish that meet that. I mean, that would be something that the DOT, Department of Transportation, would decide, and it's based on, your location to adequate transportation, that kind of thing. If it's an eligible CDBG activity, and there's a lot of different criteria to look at to be able to meet that. That's part of what we do as consultants in this area, is look at a project and know whether or not it's going to be eligible for this funding. Activities that can be completed within the funding timeline, and what I mean by that is these activities have to be finished within 6 years. So we have to move fairly quickly to get it done and to meet all of the criteria for the state and federal requirements. Okay, so what are our next steps? The public comment period it starts now, basically, or when you got the information. Calcasieu Parish is initiating an outreach effort to solicit projects from various organizations around the parish, as well as engaging project partners that are leading projects identified in our long-term recovery plan, which you heard about previously. The public comment period ends on October 28th, so it's 30 days from tomorrow. We'll need to have your comments in. You can also email comments to publiccomments@calcasieuParish.la, or you can mail them into this address. There will be a follow-up Q&A document that will be emailed to all participants following this meeting. So when you send your comments in, we will respond to your comments. And then if you gave us your email address, you're going to be able to get the document that comes from this public participation process.